Layoffs, AI-generated portfolios, teams flattened overnight. It's never been easier to feel like your design career is one bad reorg away from falling apart. So what if the real secret isn't in chasing prestige, polish, or pixel-perfect case studies, but building a career that actually survives all the chaos? So today I'm joined by my good buddy, Trevor Alexander, the author of An Ugly Design Career, to unpack what it means to build something anti-fragile, something that gets stronger under pressure. We're talking about the myth of looking the part, why tools are table stakes, and how grit, trust, and communication might matter more than your next job title. So stick around. We're about to challenge everything you thought a successful design career was supposed to look like. What's up, UX fam? How's your mom and them? Welcome to another episode of Beyond UX Design. I'm Jeremy. If you're new here, welcome. I am super stoked to have you. You ever ship a feature that should have never seen the light of day, survive a sprint planning where nothing got planned, or maybe you just said, let's circle back under your breath for the 5th time this week? Well, you, my friend, have earned a Merit-ish badge. Introducing the Beyond UX Design Merit Badges, a vintage-inspired sticker series for UX designers, PMs, and engineers who have seen things. Choose from 3 sets: Soft Skills, Sharp Tongue, Cult of Figma Initiation, Pixel Pusher Survival Kit, and more to come soon, so stay tuned. Each set of 5 badges celebrates the chaos, the coping, and the conference calls that should have been emails. Stick them on your laptop or flaunt them at your stand-up. Show the world that you made it out of Q2 with your sanity mostly intact. Get 1 set of 5 stickers for $12 or 2 sets for $20 at beyonduxdesign.com/badges. Just promise me one thing: you'll send me pics and show me where you stick them. How often do you stare at a blank Figma canvas unsure where to start? Well, this episode is brought to you by Mobbin, the ultimate UI and UX design inspiration library. Mobbin gives you instant access to over 400,000 beautifully designed UI and user flows from apps that you love, and content is added weekly, so you never have to start from scratch. Quickly find exactly what you need, search by app category, UI patterns, or even specific features. And my team and I use Mobbin daily at work to find useful patterns, and it helps my team work much more efficiently. And honestly, I can't imagine kicking off a new feature without Mobbin. So are you ready to level up your design process? Visit mobbin.com/beyondux to get 20% off Mobbin Pro today and never run out of inspiration again. And if you haven't done it already, please consider subscribing to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you are a regular here and you feel like you're getting something out of the show, I would really appreciate you leaving a 5-star review. That'll help me out so much more than you can imagine. And as always, thanks so much to Chris, Siraquan, Stacy, Radu, Megan, Andrew, John, Mark, Kevin, Jason, Michelle, Marty, Tino, Adina, and Zoe for all their support. And if you want to join these fine folks and many others and help keep the show independent and ad-free, you'll get exclusive access to the entire video library of episodes, including episodes before they're even released. You can get instant access to those videos right now for as little as $5 a month. And for more information on how you can support the show and help more people find out about what we're doing, make sure to check out beyonduxdesign.com/support. And of course, if you think the show is worth sharing, then I would love it if you told some friends. So your design career, you probably thought, I need to learn Figma. I got to learn all these tools, AI, everything else. But is that really how you build, learning those tools, is that really how you build a sticky design career, an anti-fragile design career? Or is it something else entirely? Well, I've got my good buddy, Trevor Alexander, on the show. Trevor, you are, I think, the first Beyond UX Design guest that has been on both of my podcasts, Retro Time and Beyond UX Design. For those who are not familiar with Retro Time, I had a podcast that was more like software, kind of me and my buddy Derek would just kind of banter back and forth. Every once in a while we had guests on, and Trevor came on to talk about his book back when he first released it. When was that?
Oh, goodness.
That
feels like ages ago. I couldn't even name it. It was either 2 years ago or 20. I can't tell you.
Right on. So, well, Trevor's got an update to his book, An Ugly Design Career, and we're going to talk all about that today, along with everything else. Trevor has been an active UI and UX designer in the tech industry for over 18 years, including being part of 3 successfully sold startups and working everything between sole designer, founding designer, and leading design teams. He's the author of An Ugly Design Career, which looks to provide some unusual or unorthodox tactics for designers to build an unshakable career. Trevor, welcome to Beyond UX Design. I am so excited to have you on. How's it going?
Man, absolute honor to be here. Doing fantastic. Thanks so much.
Hell yeah, dude. All right, man. So I want to learn a little bit more about you. Let everybody know out there kind of how you got into this. And then ultimately, how did you get to this idea that, a pretty career is not the only way to have a successful product design, UX design career?
Yeah, so I suppose it started from some reflection because at some point, call like the 15, 16 year mark, I'd looked back on my career and realized, because everybody's talked about portfolios. Okay, case studies, portfolios, like you start to get asked advice because you've been in the game for quite a while. And it's like, well, what do you do for your portfolio? And it's like, I don't have one, so I can't. And that just, it caused this introspection. It's like, why don't I? Like I've never applied for a job and I've never had a portfolio. And in looking back on it, it's just because of the opportunities that I was granted. And, it does bear mentioning like that. That's an incredible amount of luck, so I don't want to like you need to have some lottery wins in that case too. So I don't want to overstate it. But at the same time, anytime I was there, the type of work I did, who I worked with, the effort I put forth, the way I approached design, which was consistently told from all the folks that I work with, like, this is really different. Like, really like working with you. Please come now work with us at this next company. And you get kind of dragged along. And from that, when I'm seeing all these folks who, what do I do for my portfolio? I don't have work. Like, how can I get my next job? Like, what do I go network at the bar with all these designers? And I just thought, instead of this, what if instead you focused on these other items outside of your portfolio, outside of your Figma talents, outside of a designer networking event, like other parts of your design career that aren't so much talked about, and thus the content started to come together and ended up in a book.
I love it, dude. Yeah, that's awesome. And so I think like ugly design career, I think it's said, with tongue in cheek a little bit, obviously a little facetious there. But I'm curious, when you say like ugly design career, what do you mean by that? Like, what are you thinking when you say ugly design career? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think so. First, clever play on words. The designers here, we're always trying to obviously make something look nice or pretty, like that wonderful experience. So you got to enjoy a little bit of wordplay. But beyond that, I really do think like the bread and butter, the value that a designer can truly bring beyond just a pretty design is the nuts and bolts, like the late hours, like the deep work through difficult problems with good people to produce something of value. And it's that ugly part of it. Where it's just like, okay, I'm going to change the button to another color because the client preferred it that way, and I'll get the contract and we'll move it along, which goes against like this, well, portfolio, user first. Like I need to user test this and apply the whole process. So it was just a play on words that catch something, but then it really just speaks to where I think the designer can provide the most value, which is in those ugly bits between the pretty work.
Yeah, the ugly bits between the pretty work. I love that. And it often is kind of ugly, like some of this like back and forth, conflicts that we have a lot of times with our team. It is kind of ugly. It's kind of interesting. I don't know. I never thought of that part, the ugly bits between the pretty work. So there's something I've always kind of found interesting. Figma, for instance, Config, arguably one of the biggest UX or product design conferences of the year. Everybody pays attention to it. Life stops essentially for the week during Config. And it's a tool. It's a tool. And it's just one tool out of many tools that you can use to do your product design or UX design work. And it's kind of interesting because there's sort of a weird paradox there. Like, people see that and they think, oh, I got to learn Figma, got to master Figma, got to master auto layout, got to master all these new fancy tools. And, how am I going to get a job if I can't? But that is not really what makes a great design career. And you've mentioned this, I think, in the past, like tools are just table stakes. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Like, what does that mean? Like, how do we help new designers like understand that like that Figma proficiency is part of the job for sure, but it's not the entire job. And it probably won't make you more successful than someone who can do the other things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you would see it listed on portfolios a lot, or even like kind of more junior, kind of mid-level resumes. Like I'm a Figma expert. And the thing to note is that, and you've been around long enough with me, that used to be Adobe Illustrator expert. That used to be Photoshop. Like people used to design interfaces in Photoshop with actual pixels back in the day, but they come and go. Right. So like to build a career that is based on being a particular expert in a little thing becomes, I think, a very bad problem. That's not the interesting, valuable work. And, to call out Config a little bit, if you notice the amount of AI work that was put into it, specifically around design me a landing page, and then Figma just designs it for you. That alone, I think, really raises the red flag about how valuable knowing one particular tool is or not, because the tool itself is already designing things that are kind of rote and basic that we already have designed 1,000 times. So the fact that you think you can out Figma is silliness. And that's like, to become such an expert, you're basically training it in something that AI is going to be taken over, as opposed to, yes, I need to be good at Figma because I have to be able to output quickly. But why am I outputting efficiently and quickly? So that I can enable the team to build something of value that's good for the company. And that's so again, there's two things there you can focus on. I can become like really good at Figma, like Figma, as opposed to value for those that I work with. And it's like, well, how do you provide the best value? By being really fast and efficient at Figma. Fine. But like in next year, it might be, maybe we're all back to Sketch. Like, I don't know. Like who knows what happens in 2 years? So it's just, I think, a misplaced focus. And yeah, something you definitely see with kind of more junior mediums. And I think it's time to shift to focus on the people that we're working with.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I've actually seen a lot of people recently start talking about Lovable, like replacing Figma workflows altogether.
Yeah.
They're going straight to like prompts to build like functional prototypes or whatever with code. Those people are bypassing Figma altogether, and it just shows like kind of, you've got to be adaptable. Like just having that Figma mindset, I need that one tool, is going to send you down this rabbit hole and get tunnel vision, focus on that one thing, mastering that one thing and all the features that they put out every year and blah, blah, blah. But you miss the opportunities to find new tools, other tools, no tools at all, that will help you at the end of the day get an output or an outcome that you're really going for, which is ultimately a functional piece of software that brings value to someone. So hopefully they pay and your company makes money. If that's AI prompts to generate functional prototypes, to run some usability studies, that's, bypassing Figma and designs altogether, that's what it ends up being. But like that idea though, of just like focusing on the tool. I don't know. Anyway, I love your thought process there. So something that I feel personally, and this is like, I want to get your thoughts here, but your ability to like speak, articulate clearly, to tell stories, inspire your team to just like want to build something better or come together and break down silos, things like that. To me, at least, they matter more than your ability to be a pixel perfect, visual designer. And I think I don't want to discredit the people who are doing visual design because I think that is very important work. But at the same time, if you can do that great visual design work and you can't do those other things, you're never shipping any of that to a user to actually add value like we just talked about. And so I'd love to know, like, how did you get to a point where you were able to rely on some, we'll call them soft skills for lack of a better word, maybe foundational skills? How'd you get to a point where you were able to build those skills up and focus less on the visual design piece?
Well, I think you need to be intentional about it, right? And I think you need to train, you need to watch like great speakers. There was I almost don't want to call it, because it's one of those like bunch of free stuff up front so that eventually they can sell you a course type of thing. So I almost don't want to pitch it. But he had that, but even a broken clock is right twice a day. So it was a really great idea. So he called it like something effective, like the 5-5-5 rule, where it's like you set up a camera and talk for 5 minutes. No script, no ideas. You just ramble, but speak eloquently. Try to speak about something you're passionate about, but 5 minutes. Now, take the transcript of it and read it and see how your verbiage comes across. Are you using weak words, a lot of ums? Are you not connecting sentences? Number 2, watch it. Watch like how are you using your hands? Are you fidgeting? Do you have like this weak posture? Like speak to it. And then lastly, like just listen to the audio. And are you annoying? Are you clear? Are you enunciating? Things like that. So I think it's realizing the power of it. And again, this almost goes back to the Figma thing where it's like, well, if my design is good enough, I'll eventually get promoted and I'll start to have influence. I'll be able to convince people because my work is so amazing. And I don't know that there's anybody who's survived in this industry long enough that would agree with that. That instead the entire book, the foreword to your amazing book, which everybody on this podcast should buy, but literally the entire book of articulating design decisions like that. It's one thing to know your craft and be able to output something from it. It's entirely another to communicate that to another person and bring them along. And that is a skill that you just can't underwrite. You cannot stress the importance of that enough. Because you want to get a job, you're going to you have to sell yourself. You want to get your idea across, you need to be able to underscore its value. You want to get promoted, you need to be able to show leadership and effective communication. So I think it's appreciating the power of it and then very pointedly working on it.
Now you've done, if I'm not mistaken, improv.
Yes.
and
That's
you've
right.
done like Toastmasters and stuff, if I'm not mistaken.
So
Yeah.
that was it was kind of a backwards. I'll try to keep the story somewhat brief. I fell into it backwards and ended up being amazing for my UX career. Played a video game called Bastion. If you do play video games, I highly recommend it. Has a voiceover artist the entire time. And it is this sultry, gorgeous voice. It is so cool. If nothing else, YouTube some gameplay of Bastion. It's amazing. Anyway, inspired me. I'd always wanted to do some voice work. Like used to do speeches like back in the day. I'm like, all right, this is my call to action. I'm going to go into voice acting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know the show Arthur?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Muffy, the original voice actor for Muffy, was actually a coach I found. So I had Muffy coaching me, Melissa Altro. She's unbelievable. So she gave me voice lessons. So for like a number of months, like we're just sitting there working on my voice and my presentation and how to speak, how to emote, how to enunciate, things like that. One thing that was holding me back, she said, was my self-concern. I didn't want to look foolish. Like I didn't want to kind of just go for it. She's like, so she demanded that I go to improv. She's like, you need to take an improv class so you can get out of your own way. And I did, and it just is fantastic. You will never feel sillier. And it's just the absolute greatest. You get rid of filters and you're just able to speak. And it works so well for, I feel, anybody's design career. Because when you're in a meeting, it's super cool to have a presentation and you read the lines. But what's better is when one of the executives says, well, what about this?
Mm-hmm.
So that ability to like quickly, it's that with improv, they have yes and. Somebody presents an idea, you're not allowed to shut it down. You have to take it and then add on to it to keep the story going. In some ways, you can do this in this meeting, right? Where you have this skill to now bounce and move and like have this flexibility. So when they ask you this question, yes, and you are now moving. So between all those types, like the voice training, the practice speaking, and improv, no matter what, I highly suggest for people. A, it's fun. It's fun as all hell. B, it's like just good to get out with other people. But C, for your career, I think it produces this like flexibility in speaking and being able to work on the fly. That's going to help in a ton of situations.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, we actually had Yadi Arroyo on the show, who is from Chicago. She did Second City and stuff for a little bit. And she's a UX designer, UX leader. And we talked about improv. And it's funny, I've actually never done improv, which surprised Yadi, but I've never done improv, like an official improv class at least. And I appreciate the value of improv. I just like never done it. And now I feel inadequate almost because I haven't done it. I need to get with the program, man, get improv going. But yeah, that's just so important, dude, because like one of the things that I love about, you mentioned Tom Griever's book, Articulating Design Decisions. One of the things I love about his book is, not leading with no and saying, yes, we could do that. All right. And taking it a step further, I think like applying that, the concept of yes and it's the critique I've heard people say of yes and is like, well, you shouldn't say yes to everything. I think they're missing the point completely. That is not the point. The point is to not lead with no, because that's often how UX designers are like, well, no, but, it's like instead of yes and we lead with no, but. And I think it's just go with it. Like, just see, where can you take it? Maybe it doesn't work out. A stakeholder suggests a thing. Oh, all right. Yeah, it wasn't what I thought, but let me try it. Let me play around with it. Let's see what we can do with that. Let's have a co-design session and kind of get your thoughts out there. And, what you ultimately do though, is you start to build trust, and that trust will take you so far. And to me, relationships, this is like the key, right? For me, at least, can't build great software without great relationships. I've literally said it like a million times. And trust is what builds that relationship. And often that no but just kills the trust. It just kills it. And, you end up as like one of those UX designers stakeholders just hate working with. Like in the past, I worked with a few people and they were like, can I just talk to you about this? I'm like, yeah, well, so-and-so is handling that. Like, I just can't, I know exactly what they're going to say. And I just like, I need to talk to somebody else. You know what I mean? And that just like that person, right? The other person, like talking about your career and a fragile career. Like, how does that person get promoted? How does that person get, referred for another job? Like that person's not. You mentioned before, you thought it was, winning the lottery luck. And I would argue partially timing. I don't know that it's luck. Because I think having that mindset automatically makes you memorable. It automatically makes you somebody that someone else wants to work with. I don't think it was luck as much as it was maybe just timing. You've got to be in the right place at the right time for the right opportunity, but those people thought of you for a reason. and they didn't think of someone else. So I don't know, man. I feel like that just to me is all like kind of tied together. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead. You were about to say something.
That's just like, I love how you pulled it all together. Like that is really fantastic. I think one of the more interesting ideas I've had with working with, especially we'll start with founders and then we can talk about a few different angles, but like with founders, like they are just like an absolute boiling pot of like ideas. Like things are just flying out all the time. They want to go in a million directions. And it's like, well, I have a design system and we got to like, what's the UX? Like, oh no, until we do some research, we can't get it. And again, that's you shutting them down because you don't want to do it. And if you consistently shut people down, and exactly as you said, they will stop coming to you, dude. You know what I mean? So it's almost like an overvalue of your own work, which is weird to say. And it's so weird to say. It's right. Like you need to undervalue your work. What I mean by that is like I don't want to, the thing I detest that I think ties in what you're saying is I detest when folks who aren't kind of making it say, I don't want to waste my time. Like think about how heavy and lousy that sentence is. So like a developer comes to you and it's like, oh, this guy's not a designer. And he has an idea. Hey, I had a cool idea that I think might be neat. And, it's like, look, I could design this for you, but I don't want to waste my time. You know what I mean? Or it's like, hey, this guy wanted to see what it would be like if we did A, B, and C. Well, I don't want to waste my time on that work. And it's like, how valuable do you think your stuff is? Like truly. You know what I mean? Like unless your pixels are turning into literal gold, like I think you can spend some time to give somebody the respect of like trying to get an idea off the ground. And because you are so good at what you do, you're supposed to be, you should be able to turn that into something that's interesting. And if it doesn't even work in the one context, it can work in a different. So, the whole idea of yes-anding and the building that trust with people is that when they come to you with an idea, you're going to be this receptacle for it. You're going to listen to it. You're going to apply the totality of your talent to try to turn it into something. And you don't have the entirety of human knowledge. You don't know what's going to work, right? You ask people what they want, they'll ask for a faster horse as opposed to a car, right? The classic Ford saying, you don't know what's going to work. So why not spend a bit of your effort and use the talent that you've managed to accrue and put some effort into an idea that someone else had. And as you said, the thing that produces is trust. That means the next time they came to you with a bad idea and you were willing to hear them out and you tried it. Now, what happens when they come to a good idea? They come to you and now you're attached to a good idea. And then what happens if they go to another company who's trying to do big, difficult things? Well, I got this guy or this gal who's good at what they do and they're on their feet. They're able to kind of help us produce some ideas. So we can trust them with this idea and this energy, and they're going to help us produce something great. So yeah, I love that thread you pulled upon.
Yeah, man. It's like, I'm doing it. I got my needle, I got my thread. I'm just tying it all together.
Weaving a rich tapestry of a podcast. I love it.
That's why I'm here, baby. That's why they pay me the big bucks. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about this other idea. We think about a fragile career, right? We're going to fail. We're going to hit a layoff. And we're going to get laid off when it was, we could have been the best designer in the world. Doesn't matter. They cut the budgets. Your team's gone. Or not getting a job or, not getting a promotion, whatever it is. And I think about this idea of failure and getting through failure. And then I think about this idea of grit. And when I think about a non-fragile design career, what I think about less is like a career that doesn't break, but a career that flexes, that can change, that you're willing to kind of do something different and pivot and figure out a way to just keep moving forward. And I want to talk a little bit about this idea of like tenacity and just, that mindset of grit being sometimes I think maybe more important than talent itself. And I'd love to hear your thoughts there. Like, what do you think about that? Like this idea of tenacity over talent.
When I was first introduced to the sentence, it was from a Henry Rollins interview. He's describing how he became the lead singer of Black Flag and things like that. And he says, I'm not the greatest, I'm not the best, I'm not the most talented, but I'm more tenacious. Like I know where I came from and I know where I can go back to. Like you might be more talented than me, you're not going to be harder working than me. And there's those items with like tenacity, you can become talented in a sense. But like real truth, like just to lay it out, like I do not think I have it in my capability to be a top 10% designer in the world. Just don't have it. You look at some of the work that people do, next level geniuses. You know what I mean? Same thing with artists and those type of things. But I can outwork a heck of a lot of them, right? So that ability to just consistently apply the craft and keep on working and keep on going through when road bumps come up. Like, what's the other one? Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. I think that comes from a famous coach. It's that same idea. Like the thing about people who are talented is because when it comes easily to you, it easily goes away in that once a challenge arises, they might wilt under that pressure. But the person who has to work at it consistently can push through. So on week 3 of a project that was supposed to be done 2 weeks ago, when you have to keep putting in that effort to put it across the finish line, you can be the person that does it. You can show up, you can arrive, you can continue to put in the effort. And ultimately that willingness to continue to push forward, like this goes back to that trust thing. It's like if I bring in this guy or gal to handle it, I know they are not going to stop until it's done, right? Whereas like this guy, like he's won awards. It's amazing. But he gets paid like a lot. He can go anywhere. So this gets kind of hard, probably going to bounce, right? And so now you have to put together a team that can't fail. Who are you calling? Like, who are you going to bring in? Are you going to bring in the prima donna that produces unbelievable work as long as it's like straightforward, or this person who is going to doggedly push it forward across the finish line? So in that, I think like where if you are feeling that your talent doesn't measure up, you can bring forth such amount of tenacity that it can overcome it. So that I think that's where it becomes a lot more valuable, and especially for a career where people just keep bringing you along because it's like, we know this person is going to push it across the finish line.
When I think about an ugly design career, right? Like, I don't want to diminish the importance of visual design. I think having a designer eye, understanding, having good taste, maybe you could call it that, knowing what looks good and what doesn't is incredibly important. And a lot of people might say, well, I'm not a designer. I don't know how to do that, or I'm not a good visual designer. I can't do that. I've heard some people say like, I couldn't do visual research. I'm going to go into strategy, which like I always laugh at. But like, a lot of people that I've worked with boot camps, and like people say, well, what do you want to focus on, strategy or visual design? It's as if the two things are mutually exclusive. But what I tell a lot of people, like the people that like, especially people who've career shifted from another career that were not designers, who never took a design class, never took an art class in their life, they're going to say, well, I'm not a good designer. I can't do the visual design at least. But there are so many great resources, and it's a skill like any other. You can learn it. You can learn better visual design principles. You could get like Adam Donaway's book, Practical UI, for instance, with tons of just incredible side-by-side examples of why this is better than the other. And you start to see the science behind it. But it takes the tenacity to go out and find those resources, learn those resources, because no one's going to make you do it. You've got to go out there and figure that out yourself. And that's visual design. That's one example. But strategy, service design, like whatever that skill set is you feel like you don't have, nobody is going to spoon feed you any of this stuff, right? And having that grit, that tenacity, one, to just get to level up, to get better at your craft, call it your craft, whatever. But when you don't get the raise, to keep pushing on. When you don't get the job, to keep pushing on, find another job and all that stuff. I just think like it's just so important. I love like Henry Rollins' quote there is like, you could be more talented, but you're never going to work harder. And the other thing that I think about there is like what you can control, like you can control the effort that you put in. You might not be able to flip a switch and become the most like amazing designer overnight and be able to craft the most amazing interfaces that are going to win design awards or whatever, but you can definitely control how hard you work. And I love that quote by Henry Rollins. That's awesome, man. I love that.
Oh, and just bring it back, like when you think about, again, like as far as like trust goes, like that's how you respond to people when they come to you, like that's in your control. How much effort you put into something, like that's in your control. Like, and so again, like I love what you're saying there, like you can't control markets, you can't control layouts, you can't control draws, but you can control how Maya Angelou, people, they won't remember your words, your actions or anything else, but they will remember how you made them feel. Right. And so you can control that because you can be respectful, you can work hard. And like just to not give up when other people's do, like that's entirely in your control. And that should give you great courage and agency to like go out and get it. Like you can make that change.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And there's so like right now, especially in the market, right? Like hundreds of people applying for one job. Like you cannot control that. You can't control how many other people are applying that job. But you can absolutely control how you approach hiring, how you approach applying, networking, talking to people, doing all that stuff. And sometimes that won't work. Like I got laid off in December 23 and I got within the first 6 months, 3 months, I got like 5 or 6 referrals. Not a single one resulted in an interview, And so like I got the referrals, I networked, I did all this stuff. And sometimes it's not going to work. Just keep going because you never know. It just takes that one person to think about you and the way that you made them feel, like you said, to do that. Now, the other thing I think about tenacity, and this is the next thing I want to talk about, it's not always just pushing forward, pushing forward. Sometimes it's learning when to accept something the way that it is and deal with it and work through what you got. And I want to talk about this idea of like better. And I think our next job might not be more paid higher. It might not be a bigger salary. It might not be more benefits. It might not be a bigger title, higher title or whatever. And I'd love to talk. I just hear your thoughts there about this. Like sometimes you're just not going to get the level up or you're not going to get the promotion or the bonus or the whatever that you were hoping for. And I love to think through this, like from your perspective, thinking about an anti-fragile career, one that flexes and bends and, but never breaks. What do you think about that? Like that idea of defining better. How do you define better? How do you get to that point where you're like, well, this is less than I made or whatever, but it's better for me now, or it's the right decision now? What do you think? What are your thoughts there?
A bunch of stories I could go. I want to keep it tight though. So like, I think one of the greatest exercise I've ever done, it came from my first mentor at work. And this is a job that I'd taken fresh out of school, working at a company. I got fired, and deservedly so. I sucked. I should have been fired after a year. And they said, hey, you're fired. I'm like, oh, that's great. And they're like, what do you mean that's great? Oh, there's a startup I've been doing night work with, and I really want to go work with them. And what I was really glad of, I took the opportunity because I was young, like I was right out of school, didn't have a lot of like dependents. So I went and lived in a founder's basement for like the next year. It was such a cool product. And it's like, look, give me a place to sleep, like feed me, and I'll just come and work because like this is awesome and I think I can learn a lot. And I did. That first mentor, he takes me under his wing. He sees that tenacity. He wants to like guide me and help me. He sits me down. He's like, I want you to write out, and I tell this to all the folks I mentor, I want you to go down and write down a perfect day and every excruciating detail. You wake up. Okay. Where? Is it a single bed? Is it a hammock somewhere in Vietnam on a boat? Is it in a penthouse? Is someone beside you? Do kids rush into the room? Do you go outside and make breakfast? Is there a maid that makes breakfast? Like now do you go to work? Is there a car? Like does someone drive you or do you walk? Like what, like really put it out there. And I've talked to some people and I've seen it. Yeah, I want the penthouse. I want the Ferrari. I want everything else. Okay. That's your moonshot. And the other person's like, I want to be in the country. I want a couple chickens. I want to have a slow lifestyle. Okay. That's your point. The reason to do that is that you said a great word, better. There's no better. In my view, there's satisfaction. There's contentment. There's gratitude. And the thought that you can wake up in the environment that and be so grateful for everything you have, that's the place where you want to target and go towards. And when you have the direction where you want to get to, you know what you're going to have to sacrifice to get there. All right, I want to live in the country and have chickens. And it's like, okay, so that's probably remote work. You don't need as much money, so you can take lesser because, your expenses aren't so high. So now you can kind of right size things and ideally you want less pressure because you got to feed chickens, right? As opposed to a penthouse, which is, okay, you got to be top of the top. That's going to be dog eat dog. Get ready for a fight. Your talents have to be through the roof. It's going to be highly political. You got to, you know what I mean? So by setting it, you can just determine what your better is and then right size the career for it. So as opposed to being, it's like, well, I need more letters in my title so I can feel important, or I need more zeros on my paycheck. It's, I need this to have a fulfilling life that I want to get to. So you grab the steering wheel of your career, of your life, and have your career be the fuel to get there, as opposed to just letting outside consumerism kind of point you to what you're supposed to get. And from that, I think comes a lot of opportunities, because something will come when you have an idea of where you want to get to. Opportunities will arrive where previously perhaps you would have said, like, I'm not sure this is great. This seems a bit too small. But instead, you'll look at it from the guise of where you're trying to get to, and you're like, oh, that's actually a great first step towards chickens. So I'm going to take this one and not the other path. And it just helps, I think, make some decisions. So in my view, that's better.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, this is something that I think about too. Again, like I mentioned, like the idea anti-fragile. It doesn't mean a career that won't change. It means that it won't break and you won't like end up, homeless or whatever. So I think about this, and you just said something I think is like a key piece of this. You're going to need less money. You don't need this. You could do that, whatever thing. And the thing that makes me think of is just lifestyle creep. Like I get a bigger salary. I buy a fancy car. I get a bigger house. I, spend more money. I go out to eat more often. I get used to that stuff. Then I get laid off. Now what? And if I pay attention to that lifestyle creep and I do care about those things, I make a bunch of money, I put it away, I have runway, I get laid off. Now I have 6 months, a year, however long, where I can take my time. I don't have to stress out. Because, when we get laid off, like nobody gets laid off because they don't have a job anymore. Everybody hates their job. They get laid off and they get stressed out because they don't have the income to support and pay the bills and do the things they need to do. That stresses people out. It isn't the not going to 9 to 5 and like going into an office. Like everybody hates that shit. What they like is the paycheck. And when you get laid off, that's the part that stresses you out. So if you can figure out how to just limit your lifestyle creep, to me at least, this is like a major part of this. And whenever I say that kind of stuff, I always feel like somebody's dad, it's the kind of advice I give my kids or whatever. Like, I don't know if you have any thoughts there about the lives, like how do you manage lifestyle creep? But that's like really hard to do. Everybody's personal. And I love your exercise of figuring out those things and what do you really care about? I think that's like amazing. I don't know how many people actually do that, on their own. Probably very few.
So I'm so glad you said that. Like that, I think you say it's not mentioned, but as far as we're on this pot, we're talking here, we're trying to help people have like good design careers. And I think and so much of it focuses on the craft and the industry and things like that, and not enough on the life. Because it, like, again, think about like somebody who makes $20,000 a month, but spends $23,000 a month is poorer than someone who makes $10,000 and spends $8,000. Literally, like by the numbers, right? So if you allow that to creep in, you're going to limit your options for what you might be able to do. Because the coolest, most interesting thing in the world might show up and you can't do it because I can't, my car payments are so much, I can't take that gig. That looks awesome and I get to work with my friends and it's a really relaxed atmosphere. I got to keep grinding over here on this side. Like it really did happen for me. Like the current gig I'm with, current group, it's an absolute dream job. Like I've never been more satisfied in my life. I honestly have like hit the target I'd set for myself when I was like 20. Like this is everything I've wanted. Like I'm living the dream in that way. When I first took it, it was a literal halving of my salary. Like I was in the startup eco space. It was like silly boom times back in the day. And I can remember like sitting with my wife, looking at the amount we were making. And it was like, this is silly. Like this is not like, I don't know that I could tomorrow go out and get the same. Like we can't spend this much. Like we have got to stay reasonable, right? And that paid such huge dividends because ultimately when it came time to make the decision where I got to work with the group that I really wanted to work with, I could shift. I had the flexibility. I could go over that way. So I cannot, like I love that you brought it up and I hope like you continue to talk about it more because I think it's so vital to building a great design career / any career is just having that fiscal responsibility so that you don't outlive your means. If good times come, wonderful. Enjoy yourself. This isn't about austerity. Have a good meal, like have like nice things, fine, but just within a purview so that you make sure you have resiliency if something bad happens. And it just allows for such cooler decisions as like they come up in your career.
Yeah, I love that, dude. Yeah, that's such an important thing too. I mean, when you look at some of the money that I have heard people making at places like Meta,
it got silly.
And TikTok.
It got so silly.
Like I know someone who works, they're pretty high up at Meta, but they make $500,000 a year after, equity and all that stuff. It's not cash take home pay, but still $500,000 a year. I cannot fathom making that much money ever in my life. Like, even if I won the lottery, I would lose like most, you know what I mean? I wouldn't even make that much because they'd take out most of it for taxes. But like, I just can't imagine making that much money. And like, that's great. And I love it. And I'm glad you're doing it. But like, that has got to be something that you're thinking about. It's like, how do I save this money? Because it could be gone tomorrow. And I might not get a job at Meta making this much again. If I'm like used to making that money, like it was funny. I was at MC Hammer who went bankrupt, like had millions and millions of dollars, Grammy award winning artist and all that. And he's bankrupt. Like I think Vanilla Ice, was he bankrupt too? I don't know if he actually went bankrupt or not.
That one's more funny. I expected it, but then you watch I remember I was watching a documentary going through it, you're like, okay, tales old this time. Here we go. Here comes a crash. It's like, but he retained his millions and he became a dirt bike racer. It's like,
yeah,
what?
Right. Just, he figured out how to like live his life that he wanted to live. I love that.
But Mike Tyson, Irving, is that the name of the basketball player? Famously had to like go down to Puerto Rico and play because he'd lost
Michael
all
Irving?
his bill. Yeah,
was it Michael Irving? Yeah. Or was he? There's a Michael Irving football player too, wasn't there? Irving?
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. Like,
I don't know. Michael Irving.
Mixing my sports stuff up. But you think about that $500,000. If the guy making $500,000 a year, who, if you're Meta and you need to reduce expenses, that's a pretty big expense tied to just one person. And then if that person is spending $400,000 a year, that's a hell of a a hell of a dividend to make up. That not dividend, a hell of a deficit to make up that next year without a job. So
Yeah. Now, I will say that the person I'm talking about like recognize that and like save the money, but there's a lot of people that will just like go out, spend money, buy a freaking Porsche, like all this crap, and then they'll realize like, oh shit, I'm broke. Yeah, I love that, dude. And it's just this idea though of better. Like, what is better? Like, better doesn't mean more money all the time. Like, it might mean more money. It might mean a higher title, bigger inflated title, but it might be just like what's right for you in the moment, And I mean, your workshop is, or your, do you have that like written down anywhere? Is that something like people could kind of go kind of do themselves? You should definitely create like a Fig Jam template or something, put it on Miroverse or something.
It's one of the it's one of the in coming back to the book, that's one of those things I want to now include because conversation with you, like remember the last time we spoke offline before this, like we hit upon that thread of like, my God, this is so important for design careers to be fiscally prudent, to make sure you have an ability to actually build the proper kind of career. And those type of conversations just resulted in like I need to get out that type of content. I love your idea though, like a Fig Jam template.
Do it.
That
I would promote the hell
a Fig Jam template that says like, hey, this is like chart out your life, just free and available. Just this is where do you want to end up with, so you have somewhere to point to as you're progressing in your career.
And it's interesting because a lot of that stuff, like even like just beyond just like your design careers, life in general, like like you said something like, do kids run into the room? Like, does that bring you joy? Like I also think a lot about the like Marie Kondo your life, does this job bring you joy? Get it the fuck out. Like, does this extra couch bring you joy? Get it the hell out. I don't know, man. I just love that idea of asking those like really deep introspective questions before you decide to go buy a $500,000 house that you can't afford.
I do hope when you Marie Kondo your kids, it's like, you do feel joy? Because it's like, oh, sorry, kids, you don't bring me joy.
Yeah, you know what, kids? You guys are the worst. Get the hell out. You don't bring me any
for Ferrari.
Joy. Yeah, dude, I just can't even imagine the amount of money I spend on my kids. I could have 5 Ferraris. Let's not think about that. All right, so lastly, like, let's wrap it up because you got to get out of here in a little bit. I want to talk about anti-fragility in practice. I'm just curious, like, what are some ways that people can kind of thinking about this? Like, if they're going through this right now and they realize that it's like something that somebody can do today to just start turning that around, because it's not an easy thing to do. It probably might take some time, but they're feeling stuck right now. Where should they start?
Yeah, and this is a bit fraught with, like, I got to be careful what I can say. I feel I can say it because I am assuming a degree of intelligence with folks who are listening. And I mean that sincerely because there's nuance within it and I get it. But the thing is, like, when folks come to you, have at some point or another let slip that you're good with visuals, design, products, whatever. From the woodwork comes everybody. It's like, hey, I had this idea, and like, oh, could you help with my cousin's logo? And hey, could you do X, Y, Z, things like that, items like that. I really think all of those are opportunities to give of yourself freely with the expectation it'll come back many times over. Because it's like, like I'm a UX designer, like why am I helping with my aunt's cupcake logo? It's like because the next person into the cupcake shop might love the logo and they're hiring at their software firm. Like if you put into the world, I believe, selflessly, like the world selflessly tries to give back to you. And people keep talking about networking, but it's just this narrow scope of I'm going to take a business card and I'm going to shine a portfolio and I'm going to go to a bar with a bunch of other designers and hand it out. And I'm going to schmooze, I'm going to network. And it's like, no, it's the free app work you do for your cousin that then gets launched. Somebody likes it, who designed it, you, and then that's like a reference, like it gets pulled along. Like it's you using your talents, like you're given gifts and putting it out into the world so that eventually those, like that produces, I think, the opportunities to get out there. So like the networking is like leveraging your gifts to make an impact for people selflessly that eventually produces the result, like the actual opportunities you want. So, and I think about you. You mentioned that, you unfortunately went through a layoff. What did you do? You have a podcast, you're producing awesome content on your LinkedIn, you're getting out there, like you wrote your book, your amazing book, would Beyond UX Designers, everyone here should have bought by now. But like you are a designer, and what did you do when you didn't have a job? You designed, like you put out there. So, when I think about the networking and getting out, like that's about it. Design. Like design an app and release it. Like AI code now is even getting further. You have no reason not to release a little something that's interesting. Start a blog. Go to Peerlist and find somebody who needs a designer to put something out there, but I won't get paid for it. It's a portfolio item then. Like, it's experience. It's a person, it's a founder who knows other founders who can work. It's get busy, get tenacious, like get out there and get going. And it's almost like my favorite one to say for that, and I'll say this to mentees, but only to kind of give them a bit of a head shake, where they're like, I don't have a job right now and I got to figure it out. Like, well, this founder's looking for some free work. It's like, oh, I know my worth. It's like, what are you getting paid right now an hour? 0. So your time is literally worth 0, technically. Like, right? So just why not get busy, and at worst case, get a portfolio item, and at best case, get an introduction. You know what I mean? Like, and to be clear, you're going to get taken advantage of a few times. It's the only but that's a classic fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. In the sense that if somebody wants to take advantage of you and your work, fine, take the experience, take the portfolio item, thank you very much. We'll never work together again. And somebody in the world, like this is a Keanu Reeves, he's like, when anytime someone smites you, it's like, thank you, because now I know to focus on the other 900 billion people on Earth as opposed to you, because you're like written off. Like, you've shown me who you are. So, that's when people say networking, it drives me a bit crazy, because they don't want to do any work. They just want to, schmooze basically instead. Yeah. So I think just imagine that type of approach where you just spread yourself out so far with such value helping people, where they're lining up to try to help you when you need it.
I love that. Yeah. It's an interesting thing about like spec work, call it whatever you want, free work or whatever. I think there's a lot of people who are against it, which I totally get, but I think it's important to just do it on your own terms. There's nothing wrong with doing free work, but do it on your terms. You might get taken advantage of, but at least weren't just willingly, oh yeah, I'll do whatever. Yeah. Because people are going to ask you for a bunch of stuff. And at some point you got to say no. At some point you have to say, I can't. But to your point, if I don't have a job right now, I got to do something. What am I going to do? You never know. Why not do it? Who knows? But, do it on your own terms. Don't let somebody take advantage of you. But
that's a fantastic way to say it. Because I do see you see the post often, and it's a company who's hiring. It's like, hey, cool, we totally might hire you, but, first do this work. Like, do these free 3 weeks of work, and then we'll see if we hire you. And that's where I started with the caveat that, like, I assume you're intelligent, because that's clearly a scam. You know what I mean? But again, the cupcake logo, like your buddy's app idea, just like put some value out there and you'll start to get value return.
I agree.
That's
man.
Networking.
Put it out there, go and find the people that like you want to help. Be proud of the work that you're doing. Give selflessly. And I think karma, man, I think it comes back. I think it always comes back. All right, Trevor, so we've had you for a little while. You got to get out of here in about 10 or 15 minutes. So before we get out of here, I got some questions I'd like to ask all my guests to help our listeners get to know our guests a little bit better. Before we do that, give yourself a plug, man. Let everybody know where they can find you, your book, and all that stuff.
It's actually a bit of an experiment. When we last talked, my intention was to try to have the entire book updated by now. Didn't happen. busy doing work.
It happens.
But I am committed to it. And instead, what I wanted to do is, there's a great book, Hell Yeah or No, Derek Sivers, which which is just a great book. But he put the entire thing for free online. You just go to his website, you can click through all the links and read it. It's great. Inspired me to write mine, and I'm going to go a step further. What I'm doing with the new revision is the entire book is live on my website, uglydesigncareer.com, and I'm going to be updating it real time. So,
building in public, I love it.
I have a newsletter you can sign up for at uglydesigncareer.com. As I update the chapters, I'll let you know. But it's the idea to instead just do it in public, but provide that value, or any the ideas that might be valuable, feel free to take, like they're on the site ready to go. So that's the best way to find me is uglydesigncareer.com.
I love it, dude. And check out LinkedIn. Are you still doing ADP list are you open to
mentorships on ADP list. If any of this nonsense seemed useful for you, at least coming from me.
If you want to go through that,
mentor and like help some folks out there. So ADP list, if you search for Trevor Alexander.
Right on. And sign up for a meeting with Trevor, go through the little workshop and get a little therapy session.
There we go.
Cost. All right, Trevor. Awesome, man. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. I really appreciate you coming on. Excited to see where you go with your book. And I think this is an incredibly important conversation for designers to have. New, old, doesn't matter. You could be designing for 20 years. I still think this is an important conversation. All right. Like I said, 5 questions. First thing that comes to your mind, you don't have to think too hard about it. What is your favorite non-design book?
Getting to Yes.
Getting
So
to yes. Yeah.
So how to negotiate without giving in. Everything you think about design is negotiation ultimately. So I cheated a little bit because it's like sort of a design book in a way, but it's ostensibly about sales and negotiation and how to get what you want. So it's one of my favorites to recommend. Getting to yes.
I love it, dude. Yeah, I think that's such an important just life lesson to learn, honestly. Negotiating in general, getting to yes, finding like, I don't know, the best freaking price for your car or like bartering with somebody on the street in New York, who knows? But obviously, like you said, our jobs are often negotiated. It's finding a consensus, finding a middle ground. It's coming with an idea. Someone else has an idea. How do you put those two things together?
Let me throw you one quick other one. How to Win the Time War. It's a series of love letters from two time traveling assassins who eventually meet up. Is one of the wildest books I've ever read.
Oh, wow,
all done through correspondence between the two. It's now my favorite fiction book I've ever read.
So cool. And
How to Win the Time War.
It tells like the story through.
It tells a story through correspondence, like just letters between two time assassins.
Wow. Okay. My mind is like bending, trying to think about how that would work. That's so cool. I would have to check that out. Dude.
I will say stick with it. The first part almost lost me and I stayed through and it's now my favorite book. So
right on. All right, man. Check it out. I need a good summer reading book coming up.
There it is.
All right. Next up, what is your favorite non-design podcast?
So I had I'd like the Adventure Zone back on the previous arc. So it's the McElroy brothers who also have a great one. What's the name of it? My Brother and Me, which is a three brothers just kind of an improv comedy show. And they're just like patently ridiculous. And it's great. They did a D&D playthrough.
Oh, dude, I love that. Okay.
And if you listen the later one's not as good, but if you listen to the Balance arc that they do, it's one of my favorite bits of media. Again, one of those things you kind of need to stick through, but it resulted in a series of comics, like graphic novels, and the story is just like, it's hilarious, and the story is actually like fantastic. So the Adventure Zone.
I love the idea of a D&D playthrough.
Yeah.
Audio only, like on a podcast or something. That's so cool. My buddy Derek, actually from our old podcast, Retro Time, we are starting a story podcast for kids called Pillow Fort. And we got our like pilot episode done. We're still working on some other stuff. But one of the ideas that we have is like a really silly D&D campaign, but like for kids, like a bunch of stuff happens and it just kind of goes like off the wires. Anyway, that's on our list of things. Anyway, we're gonna do it. It was like kid version of it, obviously, but it's gonna be funny. All right, next up, what is your favorite meal? Something you've cooked, your grandma used to cook, something you had out at a restaurant.
I'm so basic, man. Chicken wings.
Chicken wings, nothing wrong with that.
I'm a sucker for chicken wings. Just adore them.
All right, favorite sauce.
Ooh, buffalo. Wings. Gotta go buffalo.
Mild, medium, or hot?
Ooh, medium, but I'm starting to trend hot now a bit more these days. Getting my spices peaked.
All right, ranch or blue cheese?
Blue cheese.
Blue cheese. There you go, man. There was a place down by us in Kentucky called Nuck and Futz, and it's a little hole in the wall chicken wing place, but they make their own blue cheese dressing. And normally I don't like blue cheese. This is like, so it's like thick, dude. It's like a dip almost. And it's, oh God, it's so good. And normally I don't do buffalo flavor, like a medium or hot river. I usually go for like some random food, but this place, dude, the buffalo hot wing sauce with the ranch dressing, blue cheese dressing, dude, it's so freaking good.
God, it feels like it's worth a trip alone. Oh my God, that's awesome.
You ever come down to Kentucky, man? You give me a hug. All right, next up, what is your favorite vacation spot?
I have a difficult relationship with vacation because I tend to like I like my place and I like the calm of like the backyard. So it's like I'm not one who gets like just the call to go off to like a beach or like sunny kind of destination. But more specific to answer, so my wife is Colombian. And Colombia is one of my favorite countries. Of course, I'll always be a bit biased, but the place is just absolutely gorgeous. So lush, the food you'd not believe, as far as the freshness of the fruits and things like that. So traveling to Colombia, like Cartagena for like a beach city, Bogota for the center. Yeah, the country is absolutely gorgeous and phenomenal. So I'll say Colombia.
Dude, I've never been down there. I would love to go. Let me ask you this: where do you live in Canada? What part of Canada are you in?
So up near Ottawa in Ontario.
Okay. Do you just have like a really nice backyard, or is it just you just really love your backyard? Like, do you have like a
for
are you looking over like a bluff and like a river or something, or is it just like because that's totally different? Like
nothing serious, but just backyard. Like very blessed with what I consider to be a very great home. So like to be in the backyard, have a coffee, birds are chirping. We got like a whole army of cardinals going at it at the moment. Like, oh man, it's a little slice of heaven. What can I say?
So basically every day is a vacation for you. Get out there, I love that, dude. It's all about your mindset, man. I love that. All All right, last question. What is your favorite design tool that is not Figma?
Oh, that's very good. I wish I had a better answer. I guess like it might also be controversial, but I almost think Dribble. Honestly, if that makes any sense, because the inspiration about it, because especially when it's not related, you're trying to produce a dashboard for a financial application, but you go off to the illustration sections and somebody's done something for a vodka ad. And there is something about the way that they had the reflection of like the glass. That is a really cool way to visually differentiate this challenge I've been having. So let me bring it up. There's something about the high visual fidelity of some of like the world's most talented folks just at your fingertips, and not for the direct copy. Not like, I need to do a dashboard, please show me dashboards. It's more, what are these auxiliary stuff that I can consume to let that kind of foamate in my brain and then produce like something of interest. So I'd have to say Dribble.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great use of Dribble, by the way. Just like for like what I think it was like meant to be for, as opposed to just copying stuff for the sake of copying. All right, Trevor. Well, this has been absolutely wonderful. I was so excited to have you back on, not one, but my second pod. I have to be honest, dude. Your interview I did with you with Retro Time Podcast back in the day kind of inspired me, I'll be honest, to do more of like UX focused, beyond UX, kind of like UX focused podcasts, I hadn't really interviewed like UX specific people before that. It was more software kind of conversations. Like we interviewed agile people and stuff like that. But yeah, it kind of inspired me to go off and do my own thing, man. That was, appreciate that.
So we had a conversation and you were thinking, it's like, man, if this dolt can get and talk, like anybody can do it. I'm going to start a podcast.
Nah, dude. So like Derek was great. And we still we don't do Retro Time as much. We never officially ended Retro Time, but it was just like, we got busy and all that stuff. And I was like, I want to do more like just UX conversations instead of like just, software stuff. And it was like inspiring, man. Anyway, I just only ever mentioned that to you. But.
So happy for whatever small part, because what you were building up here is fantastic.
Thanks, man.
I told you today, I tuned into a live Q&A. Anybody listening, follow Jeremy and UX Beyond, because the Beyond UX and UI, because the live session you did today about portfolios was like fantastic. It's all the questions everybody wants answers to. So you are doing some fantastic work, and just glad to be a part of it and help any way I can.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, those live events are fun. You can check them out, beyonduxdesign.com/events for all the past ones and get recordings and stuff there. I would love to do those more often, but it is a lot of freaking work. Getting this is easy because I can just sort of schedule them whenever and no pressure, edit it all in post and all that, and there's not a lot of pressure. The freaking live events, dude, clicking the right buttons and making sure I got, actually, I need a producer is what I need. I got to find someone who will do it for free. If anybody's listening, you want to do some free work? You want to do some free work and be my producer? Yeah, right. There you go. Yeah, it's the pay is shit, but it looks great on a resume. All right, Trevor. Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Once again, I really appreciate it. Check out uglydesigncareer.com, or is it .co? Is it .co?
.com.
.ca. You guys in Canada, you have special URLs?
I took the CA as well, but I put it on .com. The world respects the .com a lot more. So what can you say?
You go. Right on. You get both. Yeah, forward into the other thing. Check it out, uglydesigncareer.com. Check it out on Amazon, but also it's free on your website, so if you want it there. And check it out. My good buddy, Trevor Alexander. Thanks again for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeremy. Appreciate you.
Well, all right, y'all. That's it for Trevor and me for today. I hope we helped to explain how you can maybe not make your career completely layoff-proof, but give you some tools to make that inevitable layoff a little bit more bearable. And don't forget to check out Trevor's book, An Ugly Design Career, at uglydesigncareer.com. It's definitely worth the read. But what do you think? Are you doing some of these things that Trevor already talked about? How's it working out for you? Let me know what you think on LinkedIn or shoot me an email at hello@beyonduxdesign.com. I would love to hear from you. If you like what you heard today, don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you feel like you're getting something out of the show, I would love it if you left a 5-star review. That would help me out so much more than you know. And if you know somebody who might find any of this stuff useful and wanted to tell them about it, that would be fantastic. And if you listened all the way until now, then you definitely earned a merit-ish badge. Whether you survive tricky team dynamics, Figma fiascos, or pixel-perfect feedback loops, there's a badge with your name on it. Grab 2 sets for $20 at beyonduxdesign.com/badges. Just promise me one thing. You'll show me where you stick them. Help keep the show independent and ad-free. Check out beyonduxdesign.com/support to find out how. You can join Chris, Siraquan, Stacy, Radu, Megan, Andrew, John, Mark, Kevin, Jason, Michelle, Marty, Tino, Adina, Zoe, and many others, and help keep the show independent and ad-free. You'll get exclusive access to the entire video library of episodes, including episodes before they're even released. Get instant access to those videos right now for as little as $5 a month. And if you're tired of staring at a blank Figma canvas, Mobbin gives you access to over 400,000 beautifully designed UI screens and user flows with a library that grows bigger every week. Kickstart your creativity, streamline your workflow, and level up your design process. Visit mobbin.com/beyondux to get 20% off Mobbin Pro and never run out of inspiration again. Remember to sign up for the newsletter and check out all the past episodes along with all the show notes at beyonduxdesign.com. I hope you keep coming back for more great UX tips from Beyond UX Design. And until next time, remember, you're more than a designer because there's more to UX and design. I'll see you around. Take care, y'all. I just realized I misspelled your name up in the title there. Sorry about that. I had like AR. I don't know what I was doing with Alexander.
I've seen where everyone goes Trevere for some reason. TR, like VER.
Oh, really?
So have you ever seen that in life?